welcome back to a beautiful Monday on Crypto. Oh my God, the markets are okay. So I can just say, oh my God, it's not oh my God, it's not oh my God, it's just oh my God. Let's dive right into it. All right, so coming hot off the heels from a lot of victories, Coinbase, who's just been crushing it in the ascent of becoming the space for all things crypto in the US. Well, they've got their head of legal, Paul Grewal, coming out against the Bank Secrecy Act. Now, I got to tell you, I'm super excited about this. The BSA is really the foundation of all this KYC nonsense, and the way that we keep getting all of this spam email, all of these spam text, is because our KYC information continually gets exploited. And the root of KYC and its entire process is in this Bank Secrecy Act. Now, what's really refreshing to see is Paul coming out here saying the BSA was built entirely for a paper-based world. But money is now a creature of the internet, and we need new laws to respect that. A prime example, we should look at zero-knowledge proofs to eliminate the data dragnet that the BSE forces on every consumer. For my homies out here who have been tuning in, and I appreciate you, I've been screaming to the high heavens about this. I think this is one of the biggest problems in modern society, which is the data leaking that just happens day in and day out. And there's really no way you can protect that data. So the reality is we've got to find new ways that don't require the collection and the harvesting of all of this information. So with zero knowledge proofs, which I explained in previous episodes, becoming more prominent, I mean, largely this has been a tech area that was underfunded and underdeveloped. Cryptocurrency came in, gave a lot of finance and resources towards figuring out zero knowledge proofs, and has come out with entire chains like Succinct, which I talked about. But there are multiple chains, and ZKPs are being enacted on top of Bitcoin, on top of Ethereum, and they're an amazing way not only to go cross-chain, but to create this entire digital world where we can actually know things about people. Like, again, are you 18? Are you able to buy cigarettes or access this website or whatever, without having to reveal their total identity, where they live, all of these things that can be used in an exploit in a very negative way. This is exciting because this is step one in fighting all of these spam bots and just horror stories that we live with today. Now, while I'm super pumped to see Coinbase going after that, the US itself is stepping up its own game in creating a solid sandbox for crypto companies to develop and to grow. So right as I wrapped up my TLDR last week on the blockchain bill coming out of the White House, the SEC's commissioner, Jay Clayton, actually came out and said, hey, I'm announcing Project Crypto, which Coinpedia says could transform Wall Street forever. Now, what Project Crypto is a very forward-facing collection of crypto participants, of lawmakers, basically a mechanism to bring everyone together and say, hey, let's build these rules. Let's use coordination and cooperation. It sounds so straightforward. It's crazy, but this is the exact opposite of what the Biden admin was doing, which was we just want to throw you in jail. And this is going to be so helpful to bring in technologists. Now, I'm working on this with some of the deeper technicians that I know around decentralization. I want that term to be defined, refined, and to become this holy grail that, if you can reach it, unlocks a whole bevy of benefits. I think this will be a very valid reason for projects to decentralize. Decentralization will not only strengthen protocols, make them anti-fragile, but that means that they'll be more resistant towards exploits, that their governance will be really user focused, will be thinking about what's best for the users, because the governance will be comprised of the users, right? These DAOs are generally people that have to get voted in. They're a democratic process. So this is just a very refreshing approach to see the US taking. It's clear that beyond everything going on inside the White House, yada, 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 there are longer term plays being enacted from the regulators, right? Trump will come and go, but the SEC will remain. Now, one thing that I think is pretty interesting, I've honestly, the Bored Apes have been like a conundrum to me. 2 cycles ago, they came out with this amazing concept called Other Side, which was a whole metaverse world with concurrent thousands of players. You could play as the apes, you could play as Coda's other characters, and there was just this really rich sort of RPG world taking shape. It was going to be like a metaverse for NFTs, and it seemed so reasonable, so sensible. Yuga Labs, the creators of the Bored Apes, had raised so much money, and well, it just seemed like the potential for something really fun, right, to come out of this ecosystem. And then, well, it just all kind of farted into the ethos. Like the Bored Apes fell, the Pudgy Penguins rose up to reign supreme. The punks have retained a lot of their value. The Bored Apes have lost a lot of their value. But we are seeing this scrap metal billionaire, Adam Weitzman, buys over 5,000 Yuga Labs NFTs. Now, let's keep in mind, Luca Netz of Pudgy Penguins, he bought about $5 million worth of Pengu when it was at the bottom. So these kind of buys are a big signal of confidence. If Adam's correct, I mean, these NFTs, they're worth not so much. So he probably is getting things at a very good deal. Now that other side game has been making some rounds. And let's be real, this is still a very cool idea. They sold NFTs as land, so you can actually own land in this space. You can develop on it, right? There's a lot of growth in the digital sphere that sort of reflects when generations ago you used to be able to go out and quest and build things on real land. Although that's all settled now and that's off the table. So maybe a digital analog to this is pretty neat. And we're seeing the game looking really robust with lots of people playing, more instances of actually being able to try the game. They kind of released it in a slow roll as one want to do, but there's also multiple mini games coming out of this world, right? And man, it just kind of cracks me up because this whole aesthetic looks so much like what the gorillas have put out for, I mean, decades at this point in time. And the gorillas made a fraction of the amount of money as these Bored Apes, but you know, other sides coming to fruition. So just as we're seeing the punks take off, just as we're seeing a lot of the art collections of NFTs begin to rise, obviously Pengu has its own world around it, but maybe there's something towards looking at the Bored Apes and everything going on inside other side. I'm actually going to use this as a note to dive in further and make a video on it. Now, moving on, we do have a very funny coming to terms, if you will. Barry Silbert returns to Grayscale as chairman of the firm and prepares it to go public. Now, Barry really kind of founded this digital asset treasury company. That's what Grayscale has been doing. It was essentially an ETF before ETFs existed, and they traded at a premium for a very long time. So they were the only way for traditional investors to access Bitcoin and Ethereum, and for that reason, their Bitcoin and their Ethereum were worth more. Now, Three Arrows Capital realized that they could trade this, right? It's called a carry trade, where you basically trade around the premium, hoping that it stays up. Of course, they went too long on it. The premium inverted. It went from a premium into a negative, and that caused the collapse of Three Arrows Capital, who was a major collateral lender to the Terra Luna ecosystem. That collapse in tandem brought down FTX, and it's just kind of funny how Barry has been at the center of a lot of crypto's narratives. He is very much a key player in the fall of the crypto cycle 2 cycles ago, 4 years ago, whatever you want to call it, in the 2020-2022 cycle. But, you know, Grayscale going public, I guess it makes sense. And the thing that they did around their funds is really what we're seeing with these digital asset treasury companies. We're calling them DATs now. Well, we can see that it's taking over Wall Street. Everyone and their mother is trying to raise a DAT for this asset or another. And it's kind of funny because all of these smaller crypto people are like, hey, we're looking for liquidity in a publicly traded company and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, guys, this is sort of outside your wheelhouse, but it's always fun. And speaking of that, we see Verb stock soars 200% after announcing TON treasury plan. And this kind of pisses me off. I do think these companies are pretty crappy if the asset isn't good, right? TON was loosely related to Telegram. It was really going to be their asset years ago, but it turned out that they actually were advertising the secondaries on their private rounds to people that weren't legally allowed to buy, those people being US citizens. So TON kind of collapsed with that, and to be honest, it doesn't have much utility inside of Telegram, and like it's not that great. Americans can't buy it, and like, let's be real, its time has come and gone. But I think it was Polychain, maybe Pantera Capital. Major investors were in this. They wanted an exit, so of course they put together the strategy company. One of the interesting things about these strategy companies is that investors can lend their locked assets. So when we look at like what is the TON Strategy Co., right? The Telegram that or the TON coins that they own and that they hold could actually be locked up assets that other investors want to get rid of. And maybe they're not getting rid of it. Maybe they're just lending it for a fee to these companies in return for shares, and they get liquidity. So do be very wary about all of these things. They are another means for financial engineering to create liquidity out of assets that maybe you already own and are illiquid for the moment, or it's just a way to create appreciation on them, right? We're not seeing the pumps in the crypto tokens that we are used to from the previous years, but all of these things are taking Wall Street by storm, and they're they're proving to be pretty powerful in creating upside. Now that upside is on the stock market. It's under traded equity tickers and not on the crypto market. But one would hope, and I think this is really the illusion, is that one would hope that they create buy pressure on the assets themselves. But it turns out that when you're looking to accumulate that much asset, why go buy it off the market when people will sell it to you at a discount because theirs are locked, when people will lend it to you for maybe a little bit of an APY, again, because they're locked. And we think that these are creating this awesome perpetual feedback loop towards the positive. But the reality is there's maybe just too many tokens out there. And this is another way to take advantage of the fact that they're illiquid and we can gain some liquidity. Now, be sus on these things. They are certainly very akin to Barry Silbert and the premium that Grayscale was trading on that led to that 2020 blow up, 2022 blow up at that time. Time flies. Now, this was super cool. I just saw that Ethiopia's state utility made 55 million mining Bitcoin with surplus hydropower. And this is very cool. We want to see this. This surplus power, it needs to go somewhere. If you send it away from the source, it's going to have an angel share. You lose electricity as it traverses a distance. So a lot of times that energy, they would just let it, fizzle out into the universe. They've already harvested it, but there's no way to store it. The battery tech isn't good enough. And if you send it far, you lose it anyway. So local Bitcoin mining is actually a very interesting utilization of what we do with this excess energy. I'm excited to see it. We've talked about Bhutan and how they have really mined the majority of their GDP is now in Bitcoin that they use from hydroelectricity. But maybe we can see a way to actually balance the grid, because what this does do is it does stabilize that electrical current, right? You're not having the spikes, the peaks and the troughs. You have somewhere for the energy to go when it's at its peak, which is mining Bitcoin. Pretty cool. So all of that's exciting. We still await Roman Storm's verdict. The reality is the judge came out and was like, hey, the jury is meeting, but one of the jury members has like a birthday party. Another one has, to go out at noon. So they keep meeting, they keep deliberating, they keep asking for more stays and pushing this thing down the road. All the while, Roman's entire future is on the line. So we would really like to know what this means. And of course, it's extremely crucial for privacy and everything about building this tech stack. So fingers crossed for Roman. Best of luck. So again, don't leverage up. Stay safe, and I will see you tomorrow.